It's been a while since I've made a sculpture, so I wanted to brush the rust off. But matcha first, of course. Don't buy this one though, it was not good. So while making my matcha, I was thinking of ways I could get back into sculpting, and I thought, what better way to do that than to try a portrait sculpture? And me being me, I don't know why I thought I could, out of the gate, sculpt Arnold Schwarzenegger's head, especially since I hadn't sculpted since November. And spoiler, I couldn't do it. It was not good. It was not a good sculpture. But I love sharing my failures on the internet, and I think more people should, especially since there is much to learn from failing, so why not? I whipped out all my clay and decided to go with plasticine again, since this was just a warm-up / study. I usually use wood blocks my husband collects for me at work, but I bought some of these wooden bases a while back and wanted to use one in case this thing turned out well. And obviously I was a bit too optimistic, as you'll see very soon. I made a simple armature out of armature wire, tissue paper, and masking tape and got to work. I used a method shown by Andrew Joseph Keith on YouTube where you start with a simple head shape that kind of looks like the base of a sledgehammer. And if you look at it from the top, it should look like a wedge, like this. You then try to get the silhouette of the portrait on the blade of the sledgehammer and spend your time on this. Make sure it looks like the silhouette of the side profile of your reference. This is very important. I noticed later that it really is what keeps a semblance of likeness in your portrait, even though I had absolutely no likeness in my portrait. But I can see how it helps keep the proportions correct and lined up. And I'm comparing my sculpture to my reference picture by holding it up, closing one eye, and sort of lining up my sculpture as best as I could to the silhouette of my reference. Then you fill in the bony structures with small coils of clay, so the brow line, cheekbones, and jaw. And the front does look crazy, but that's coming soon. Then you work from the front view, making sure your sculpture lines up with the silhouette of the front view this time. Oh my god, at this point, my clay hardened because it's been so cold and I got frustrated. So I took a break, rewarmed it in the oven, and got back to work. I'm working around the sculpture now, trying to match the full 360 form as best as I could, and obviously I'm struggling. It looks nothing like the Terminator. I don't know that I necessarily liked this method because you did have to fill in so many things. Unlike the Loomis method, where you kind of do start off with a solid block and you line things up like a grid, but I do think this method helps with achieving likeness, even though mine got nowhere close to it, because it's easy to line up each feature with the silhouette. And even though I knew this wasn't gonna go far, I kept going anyway, adding clay to match his muscles. And man, this guy's traps are massive. I had to go back and keep adding clay. And honestly, at this point, he was just starting to look like a big back. Not derogatory, I'm a big back. I'm just saying. But yeah, at this point, I'm defeated, so I do call it a day and try to come up with a game plan. Alright, we're back, and while I was at work, I came up with a game plan, a bad one. I thought that for some reason printing my reference would help. I don't know, having it physically, maybe I could compare it to my portrait a little better. It didn't make a difference at all. I still struggled, and especially with the eyes, which is the part I'm worst at in drawing, sculpting, anything. It always comes out really wonky. I did watch different tutorials online and none really helped, and I don't want to be that artist that blames their tools and not their skills, because fully aware that a lot of it is due to me lacking skills, but I really do feel like I lacked the correct tools to work with plasticine. The clay is so hard and stiff, so the silicone tools I had weren't stiff enough to help me sculpt, so they were bending a little bit too much. I did have a couple of wood tools, but they were too big to use for things like eyes, so it couldn't make the smaller creases. So I bought a pack of metal tools, and I'll try them out in a future video when they finally come to my house. Nonetheless, I tried continuing, trying out as many different tools as I could, but no success. I didn't think I would get any further with this. I kind of accepted defeat, so I thought it would be a good idea to come back tomorrow, take a step back, and practice more basics. Alright, back to basics today, and I learned from Sunday and Monday that I must keep the clay warm. So instead of running back and forth to the oven, I saw a video where a guy used a crock pot to warm up his clay, and it worked very well on the low setting and with the lid off. It kept my clay workable as I sculpted. As I said, I wanted to do something simple like an eye study today, and for this I wanted to use a flat wooden block, but my dumbass washed it because it was dusty. And oil-based clay will not stick on wet wood, obviously. But it did work out. I used this clear fabric ruler that actually turned out to be more helpful because you could see through it, so it worked out. I followed another one of Andrew Joseph Keith's tutorial on how to sculpt an eye and tried my best to follow it. As you'll see, it's a rough time and it stays pretty bad, so brace yourself. But I don't want to be too hard on myself. At this point, I knew I wasn't going to end up with a masterpiece, so I just wanted to try to identify where my problems were. First, my tools weren't correct. Second, I'm not used to laying down clay, in that I make pieces too small and then overcompensate later by adding too much clay, and because of this, I forget to focus on big forms. It looks like I'm working on smaller forms before getting the base down, but really it's just I don't know how much to put down. Also, my god, carving out the iris and pupils are so difficult. Mine turned out wonk city, and it's just gonna take more trials to get it right. So there you have it. I ended up with a botched Arnold Schwarzenegger and a very, very creepy eye and nose. But this absolutely helped brush some rust off, not all of it, obviously, and got me back into sculpting, so mission accomplished, kind of. Anyway, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.